Ripple is a for-profit company. It prints its own token in XRP.
I will correct one thing right out of the gates. Ripple did not actually issue XRP. The XRP ledger is an open source, decentralized technology, not dissimilar than Bitcoin. And some of the creators of the XRP ledger actually had been early engineers that worked on Bitcoin. And they saw some of the scalability problems that Bitcoin was likely to have, the speed, both from an energy consumption, cost, some of the other problems. And they wanted to build a better digital asset to solve some of these problems.
And it is asking the US government to support its monopoly. I ask you this, why should the US government back a privately owned currency? This is corporate lobbying disguised as innovation. Ripple created all of its currency, issued it to themselves, and relies on the public to buy it.
Ripple did not actually issue XRP.
It is absurd and ridiculous, and Ripple needs to stand down immediately. Not only are they undermining future prosperity in the United States, benefiting from the technological innovation that is Bitcoin, but they are also trying to take advantage of the situation and benefit themselves. This is not just an attack on Bitcoin, but on principles of transparency, on fairness, and on our national security.
I'll talk my own book a little bit here because Ripple is using digital assets to solve a cross-border payments problem. Some people, I'm sure listening, have had this experience, and maybe some of us have had the experience. If you're sending money across oceans, across networks, it ends up being really slow and really expensive. So what we do is we sell technologies to banks that allow them to connect what we call RippleNet. And that allows them to do cross-border payments in real time, effectively real time, at very, very inexpensive fees. So
principles of transparency, on fairness.
Another important piece is it's transparent. I mean, one of the humorous, frustrating things that we may have experienced, if you're sending a wire cross-border and you call your bank and Joe Bankman says, hey, Brad was sending me money, it hasn't arrived. Your bank doesn't know where it sits, because the nature of how this works, it kind of hops through different hops. We had one of the largest banks in Australia, the CEO told me that 40% of all of their consumer wire transfers result in a customer service phone call. And the reason is they wait a few days and they say, hey, Joe hasn't received the wire, where is it? The frustrating thing for the bank is not only do they have to absorb the cost of taking a customer service phone call, they also deliver the news that they don't know. Wait a couple more days, it'll probably be there. That's a pretty bad experience. And that truly is our global financial ecosystem is built on the rails that I'm describing that were built 40 or 50 years ago and haven't advanced. Blockchain technologies can fundamentally re-engineer and kind of rewire that base layer to dramatically accelerate and reduce the cost associated with these payments.
So now that we're seeing Donald Trump shift from saying a strategic Bitcoin stockpile, we're now seeing him talk more about digital asset stockpile. It took only a few hours for the diehard Bitcoiners to call foul and to point the finger at Ripple because the CEO Brad Garlinghouse, people like Stuart Alderati, meeting with tons of political figures in DC to establish clear, constructive, and pro-innovation regulatory frameworks for the crypto market. So everyone knows that Brad's goal has been to get clear regulation, especially since the SEC has sued them and been attacking them for the past 4+ years. And now that we have massive exchanges filing for XRP ETFs, with 5 different firms filing for XRP-related ETPs in the US in the month of January alone, we see the largest companies like Grayscale diving on board to benefit from XRP's growth. So why would Bitcoin Baggins draw his sword and declare war on Ripple XRP? Well, one of the main reasons that he just said is Ripple spending millions of dollars. In fact, they spent $300 million in their super PAC strategy last year to ensure XRP's enduring relevance in Washington. So if someone had successfully lobbied Trump's team to remove the word Bitcoin from his crypto executive order, these Bitcoiners wailed it had to have been Ripple. On top of that, Bitcoin whales pride themselves that they don't even know who created Bitcoin.
But on principles of transparency,
where Satoshi Nakamoto disappeared years ago without a trace, Now, certain critics would argue that companies like Blockstream hold outsized influence over Bitcoin's network development and the asset's trajectory, along with massive companies like BlackRock diving in. So here's my take on what Jack has to say. I think he's very intelligent, but I also know that he owns Strike, and that's where he generates the majority of his revenue, because that company is valued at $300 million roughly in 2022. It's probably valued at more now. And he founded Zap in 2017, which is a Bitcoin investment and payments company. And on their website right here, it's just all about Bitcoin. It doesn't talk about altcoins or doesn't talk about anything else. So of course, he will do everything in his power he can do to preserve his net worth. It's common sense. Now, if he didn't have a Bitcoin company and he was saying this type of stuff, then it would hold more weight. But because he needs customers and clients to go to his website and purchase Bitcoin that he grows his income from, it's in his best interest to talk negatively about other projects and other superior technology, even if he's wrong. For example, Peter Schiff, he's known as a gold bull. He has a gold company. And Peter is saying, so the money of the people needs a government bailout. The government wasting taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin only benefits Bitcoin owners who sell their tokens to the government at the expense of everyone else. It's an inflationary policy that will lower living standards. So Peter owns SchiffGold.com, and he is a gold salesman. So this is why I'm very aware of narratives that people have to sell their product or their service. So everyone has an opinion, but what we cover here on this channel are the facts. So let's listen to the facts of what Brad Garlinghouse said about a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
You know, if, for example, there's some talk about a crypto reserve, you know, I think that would end up including Bitcoin and other technologies, which, you know, frankly just makes sense from a diversification point of view. And so I'm very optimistic that it is a new dawn for the crypto industry in the United States.
Now that right there was all I needed to hear, the word and.
Including Bitcoin and other technologies, which, you know, frankly just makes sense from a diversification point of view.
Because in one of my previous videos, I mentioned this book called The Science of Getting Rich, and it talks about the competitive versus the collaborative plane and how the energy of Earth is shifting and how the consciousness of our species is actually evolving. And that's why we went from the Industrial Revolution to the Technology Revolution. Now technology is expanding to artificial intelligence, Web 3, blockchain, from Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And success in the future is based on collaboration, not competition. Competition actually made more sense during the Industrial Revolution, because if you had a monopoly over the railways or a monopoly over electricity and you burnt down Tesla's lab, for example, to get a monopoly over the whole entire market share, specifically through oil and gas as well too, well then you could dominate. But now these days, the company with the most utility and the best product long term that collaborates with other companies and other products that can work synergistically in the future of the Web3 blockchain technology revolution are the ones that are going to be superior. So for the people that say Bitcoin's better than XRP or XRP is better than Bitcoin, even that argument in and of itself is hilarious, because that's like saying buying a home is better than buying a jet. They're two different things completely, because Bitcoin is like a store of value. XRP is used for payments because it's faster and it's cheaper than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's too slow to do that. So they have different purposes. You're not going to use a home to fly across the country. And so I thought this was interesting right here about this document from Mike Hearn back in 2009 to Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. In the early conversation with Mike Hearn, he says, "Hi Satoshi, I read your paper on Bitcoin with great interest. I found it a bit confusing though. I believe it may be easier to follow if you provide some examples. So many questions, but it's rare that I encounter truly revolutionary ideas. The last time I was this excited about a new monetary scheme was when I discovered Ripple. If you have any thoughts on Ripple, I'd also love to hear them." And then Satoshi said, "Ripple is interesting in that it's the only other system that does something with trust besides concentrate it into a central server." So Jack getting defensive is actually a great sign for XRP holders, because Brad Garlinghouse's response was way better, because it's about diversification. The smartest investors in the world will tell you the same thing. This is why we see massive companies like $1.6 trillion bank Barclays purchasing $131 million worth of Bitcoin ETFs. So imagine the demand for XRP and Solana once live in the USA and approved. And Yoshitaka Kitao, the CEO of SBI Holdings over in Japan, said back in 2019 that Ripple, Barclays, and MasterCard invested over 1.7 million to a new remittance startup using XRP. And for those of you that are saying that's old news, well, January 31st, 2025, just 2 weeks ago, SBI Holdings posted this on their website saying SBI Remit, an international money transfer service provider, and SBI Shinsei Bank have entered into an agreement regarding customer referrals and have decided to start providing the service from today to incorporate the latest financial technologies such as Ripple's distributed ledger technology in the US to develop secure, inexpensive, and fast overseas remittance services. Also, he posted this today saying Ondo Finance brings 24/7 access to tokenized US treasuries on the XRP ledger. So I'm super bullish on Ondo as well too, because they are a leading tokenized real world asset issuer. And through this collaboration, institutional investors will gain access to Ondo's short-term US government treasuries backed by the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund, which I know seems complicated, but it can be instantaneously minted and redeemed 24/7 using Ripple's stablecoin, RLUSD. So when you have the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, saying things like this.
I was with a sovereign wealth fund during this week, and that was the conversation. Should we have a 2% allocation? Should we have a 5% allocation? If everybody adopted that conversation, but it would be 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 per Bitcoin.
So sovereign wealth funds, countries, governments, companies buying Bitcoin is great for XRP. Everyone wants Bitcoin's price to go up. The only problem is Bitcoin bulls only want Bitcoin to go up. Not all of them. There are some good Bitcoin bulls out there that do want other projects and other companies to succeed because they're in the collaborative frequency. But those that aren't are living in the old world. They're going to get left behind. This is why Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund bought 436 million of Bitcoin ETFs in Q1 via BlackRock. Also, National Bank of Abu Dhabi was the first Middle East bank to use Ripple for cross-border payments. So, diversification. Jack should take some notes here on what companies that are much wealthier than his company are doing. The UAE is wired up with XRP. For example, the Dubai Financial Services Authority approved XRP under its virtual asset regime, allowing licensed firms in the Dubai International Finance Center to incorporate XRP into their virtual asset services. Why would they do that if they weren't planning on using XRP? So for people saying that Ripple doesn't need XRP, well, $6 trillion State Street and Citibank are to launch a Bitcoin and crypto custody solution. So banks are coming in full force to custody crypto. Oh, by the way, Citi is a Ripple custody partner as well too. Look at what the global head of security services over at Citi said. We are witnessing the increased digitization of traditional investment assets along with new native digital assets. We are innovating and developing new capabilities to support digital asset classes that are becoming increasingly relevant to our clients. This is posted on Medico's website. So Citi is continuing to develop digital asset solutions using a unified set of shared technology capabilities and common strategic approach, collaboration. So they're collaborating with other companies like Wellington Management, Wisdom Tree to explore tokenization of private markets. So just going back to Jack's company, Strike, and the fact that it only has Bitcoin here shows that it's no wonder why they're only valued at $300 million when other companies like SBI Holdings has a market cap of $1.3 trillion. I mean, come on, guys. The CEO, Yoshitaka Kitao, probably has the entire net worth of Strike in a checking account somewhere. So who do you listen to? I'm listening to the absolute GOAT right here, who's over 70 years old, who has more life experience. And also, he's reposting from his whole gang here talking about XRP ETFs. He's been bull posting, sharing Ripple's posts for years. And he went viral for saying every bank in Japan will use XRP by 2025. Well, it's 2025 and we're only in month 2.
I
expect the price could soar significantly. As major external shareholders, we would see substantial capital gains if the value increases. But even without selling, the valuation itself would be considerable. I'm optimistic that the outcome will be favorable soon.
Plus, Receipts Depository Corp, a startup funded by a group of former Citigroup executives, is planning to launch XRP-backed securities